I had a friend that used to work at Danceteria. So he had called and said, my friend Vivian is moving to New York. Like, I think you guys would totally get along. You should meet her, invite her to parties. She lived right around the corner from me. So we became close for, I think it was like a year or two before she came to me and was like, I just got like this fax from my father, and he wants me to take these photos for research for a film. He doesn't know I'm moving to Santa Cruz, and can you help me? But I can't tell him you're helping me, and I can't pay you, but I could buy you film. I said, well, let me see the list. And it was all in the Village. So I was like, I'll just do it, Vivian. Don't worry about it. Like, I didn't even think about it. So she bought film. I went out and just photographed what was on the list. I gave her the photos. She sent them off. I forgot about it. It was like 6 months went by. There was a message on my answering machine because there was no cell phones. And it was like, hello, Lisa. Stanley Kubrick. And Vivian was like, my father wants to know if you want a couple of weeks of work. So I was like, yeah. He sounded like one of my uncles because he's from the same neighborhood in the Bronx as my family is. And like, he went to the same high school as my aunts did. So just the way he spoke made me feel like, oh, like I know this, like, comfortable. The first question he said, well, what kind of camera are you using? I said, I have a Leica M6 and a Leica M4P. And he was like, okay. He realized, okay, I guess she's serious. And, but he wanted me to photograph everything with a 28 millimeter, because that's the equivalent of an 18 millimeter in film, and that was his favorite lens. So that's it. It started on taking research pictures. It was a contemporary film that took place in the Village and the Upper West Side, and he needed research photos because he hasn't been in New York in 30 years. So basically, become his eyes of New York City. You know, village streets, stores, just photograph. Go down 8th Street, go down here. He wanted to find, you know, the hand-painted signs but the old ones, not the new ones. So I would just get 2 sets of prints, mark them, send him 1 set. I kept the other set, and then we would just talk on the phone for hours going through the photos. Well, look at, you know, 32B. He's like, that's interesting. Can you go back there and shoot that? And he'd say, I don't understand how you're getting access to all of these Park Avenue, Central Parkway. Like, they're just letting you photograph? And I said, well, I go at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the doormen are bored. So, and he was like, oh, that's great. He sent me to his original home in Central Park West and in the East Village. And I just knocked on the door and was like, can I come photograph your house? I'm doing with Stanley Kubrick. And everyone just opened the door. And then it was, when he would approve it, then I was taking measurements and floor plans. Finally, I said, maybe I should get a letter from Warner Brothers, like just some kind of documentation, because it's... So I did, and a lot of it was like I'd call friends. I was a New Yorker, so I had friends whose parents maybe lived in Park Avenue, and then I had friends that lived in the East Village, and I would just be documenting everybody's house, every friend, everybody knew what I was doing.
Morning, doctor.
My mother, I used to like just take all her mail and everything in the thing, pill prescriptions, everything. Like when Nicole opens the door, it's all my mother's stuff, you know? So it's like he wanted everything to be real. Well, I shot my friend Colin's apartment for Domino's apartment. It just was like the lighting, just when I shot it, it was just perfect. And he was like, this is perfect. He said, even the lighting, the way that like you captured it. And I said, well, guess what? He's moving and they're redoing it. So they're throwing everything out. They're gutting it. Do you want it? And he was like, yeah. So I took the tub, I took all the old stuff. I said 2 45-foot containers of taxi cabs, all the signs, all the light posts. I took everything and sent over. He called and said, these aren't taxi cabs. I said, I bought them from a taxi place. He said, you could hardly fit in the back seat. I said, they don't do the chubby checker anymore. He wanted the chubby checker. He said, what? This is crazy. There's no space. And plus the London black cabs, they're so big in the back. Chubby checker, you used to have you could pull another stool. You could fit 5 people in chubby checker. I said, yeah, it's bad. He was like very disappointed on our new taxi cabs. There started to be a joke that he would say, he said, I need to do some translights. Don't say you can do it. Because I would always say, like, I could do that. I could do that. And I said, well, I could. I know how I shoot 8x10. And so there was 2 things, right? One, go with a steady cam and just shoot the street at night, because he was going to use it for Tom. And then establishing shots. So with the establishing shots, carried around like an aluminum ladder, and I would just stand up on the ladder and then just do establishing shots of hospitals. He's like, I need a hospital. I need like a village populated street. I need this. So I just went and documented everything, and then we would go through them. And then when it came to the second unit shots, it was Malik and Arthur Jaffer. I hired both of them. I actually wanted Malik to shoot AI. That was my master plan. Just never happened. We would go and he'd be like, all right, that looks good, but I'd go back and just pan left a little and tilt up. I was like, are you kidding me? We'd go back, find another angle. This is the one thing, is that he was great, but he would push you to a point where you just didn't think you had anything left. I'm like, there's nothing. I cannot see anything else there. This is it. But he'd send you back, and you would go back, and you would find something else. And it would be there. For 2 years, 2 winters, I did that. So when it was time to shoot second unit, it was basically just putting a camera on a ladder and framing it to the photo that he approved that I took. So it just kept going. And I started to get the sense when he said they had like a New York art director, and he told me he fired him. And I said, oh, do you want me to help you find somebody else? And he's like, no, it's fine. I have you. And I was like, okay. And then he started saying, maybe you should just come here. It was incredible. It was shocking. It was New York City, everything that I measured and that I built and saw. And then it was like quirky also, right? It was like, oh, that's with that. Or he's like, how is it? I was like, it's a little clean. I would be walking around throwing cigarette butts and graffiti and trying to get more again, it was the 90s, right? So looked a little different with putting tags up places. But it was incredible to see it built. I mean, we realized very quickly that they built it too small. It needed to be bigger streets. So when I finally got to London, what I did was I built books and books of reference pictures of stores or whatever. So if, let's say, we're like something with a nail salon, and he's like, all right, what else should we change it into? And I'm like, let's make it a psychic, or let's make it a this. So, and then I would have all the reference pictures, and we would change to make it seem like Tom was walking. I mean, the one thing that people really don't talk about with Stanley, that was producing. He was an incredible producer, because people would say, oh, he went on for 8 months, 9 months. But you went to his lighting truck was empty. And as a producer, you know how much a lighting truck costs every day. But he had an enormous amount of lampshades and light bulbs. All of Tom and Nicole's apartment is his house. He'd be like, go to Catherine's house and get, the dining room table, or go get Saul Christian's artwork. And he told me a story once where he said, when we were shooting Clockwork Orange, and I asked the set decorator he picked up a Matchbox car and he said, "What are we paying for this?" And she said, "Oh, nothing. It's like, 50 quid a week or something." And he's like, "Yeah, but the set's gonna be up for 6 months. You could have bought it for 50 quid." So every time I had to show him anything that wasn't part of his house or one of his daughter's house that was on the set, because he knew the set would be up so long, I'd have to give him this is how much it costs to buy, and this is how much it is to rent. And then he would make the decision.